The weekly Industry Angel podcast hears from business leaders and entrepreneurs who share their stories and that all-important light bulb moment. This can inspire us all and maybe scratch that itch and kickstart that idea that keeps you awake at night. And we are back. Great to be here once again, sat behind the mic. We've got a brand new setup now, a fantastic way of recording the episodes. The last software I used hit a major roadblock integrating with Skype, so we've moved on. We've got a super cool platform now, all ready, all tested, back here, ready to bring you some fantastic guests. And I mean fantastic. We've got a great lineup over the next few weeks. I'm going to be busy in some crazy time zones, getting up early, late nights, because our guests are all over the world, as are you, our listeners. We've got 50% of our listener base is in the US. We've got an awful lot in Asia as well. So we're going to be bringing you some fantastic guests. And hopefully no more breaks. So I'll be working over the next few weeks. So we've got a schedule over Christmas. Oh no, I said Christmas. I was hoping not to say that. It's like 30 odd days yet. So let's not mention Christmas. I've just done it again. Right. Okay. Let's do, these popular TV shows like The Walking Dead, when they need to kind of write more episodes or shoot more, they just call it a season, don't they? So welcome to season 2 of the Industry Angel. How's that for getting out of a break of a few weeks? Actually, the brief hiatus has been really good. For my company, Far North, it was great to oversee some projects, win some new clients. So in 2017, we'll be helping some companies grow through our sales and marketing strategies. But even with a brief break, we're still featured in iTunes in the tech and business categories, and that's down to you. So thanks for your support. Thanks for downloading and subscribing, and also reviewing the show. It really helps, so keep spreading the word. Actually, in January, we'll see the first anniversary of Industry Angel, and I'm really keen to get your feedback. I fancy a bit of a change, maybe a bit of a refresh. What about some new bumper music maybe, or touch up the logo? Is there anything you'd like to see? Drop me a line, host@industryangel.com. And actually, in terms of that break and the email, thanks for all your contact. It's been really nice of you guys to drop me a line, ask how I'm doing, ask when the next episode's going to be live. So that was nice. Right, on to our guest, on a subject that you guys have been asking for, actually. Today we have Scott Gombar. Scott runs his own digital marketing agency, and Scott's an expert in social media, digital ads, and SEO. Welcome to the Industry Angel, Scott.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
No worries. So, my friend, it's raining here in the northeast, okay? 8 degrees centigrade, 46 in your money. Let's hear it. How's Connecticut doing?
It's not raining. It snowed yesterday. Not a lot, but it snowed. And I haven't checked in a couple of hours, but it was 30 degrees about 2 hours ago. 30 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's cold. Winter's on its way.
Right. You're going to give us the lowdown on SEO, search engine optimization, yeah?
Yes.
Brilliant. Now, if you were to take this back to basics, Scott, where would you start?
Basics. I think, I've been asked quite a bit lately, what is, if there was one thing you were going to do for SEO, what would it be? And I would say develop content for your audience. That's probably, if you're not going to do anything else, do that. And the reason I say develop content for your audience is it's really twofold. One is if people aren't reading your content or watching it or listening to it, then what's the point of doing it? And two is Google has this part of their search engine now that's called RankBrain, and it's I'm drawing a blank on what it is. But anyway, so what it does is it takes what the searcher's intent is, not necessarily what you typed in. We've all done Google searches where you type something in, you didn't get what you wanted, so you rephrase it a little bit, and you might do this 4 or 5 times before you get what you want. Well, RankBrain is supposed to eliminate that, and so right now that's accounting for about 15% of all search queries on Google, and Bing has their own version of that. And the point is, RankBrain looks for how your content is interacted with. So are people actually reading it? So on Google Analytics, you can see how long somebody's been on a page on your website. So if they've been there for a few minutes, then they've read it. Are they engaging with it? Are they commenting? Are they sharing? All of these things. And RankBrain looks at those things. So if you're not writing for your audience and you're writing for a search engine, then chances are less likely that you're going to get that kind of engagement. So that's probably the single most thing. Write for your audience or develop content for your audience. So content comes in different shapes and forms, as we all know.
Well, that's great, because I think we've often heard, content is king. Everyone's talking about content. But if people say, well, why? Well, there's the reason why. So that's RankBrain, yeah?
RankBrain, right.
Let's go back. Let's look at how you would optimize a web page. So let's look at meta descriptions, for instance. Back in the day, there used to be a place for sort of keyword stuffing. But I guess now, if you're talking about content, the more calls to action, in terms of getting people to click on them when the results come through. Is that right?
Correct. You want them to do something when they read your content.
But on the meta description I'm talking about. So
the meta description. So
yeah. So right. You search in Google, your results come up, your meta description has to be something like a call to action, would you say? Something to click on them to make them get to click that page, yeah? Yeah, you want them to click on it. But that may not necessarily be a call to action, but it should be clear as to what it is they're clicking on at the very least. Not everything is gonna. You can't always, because the meta description is 160 characters or less. That's all Google's going to show. They tested a longer meta description earlier this year, and I don't know what the results of that test were. So for a little while, you were able to see more, but right now it's 160 characters or less. So you may not always get to put exactly what you want to put in there, but it should be clear as to what they're clicking on. So if I'm writing a blog post about snow in Connecticut, the meta description should be clear that that's what this blog post is about. Otherwise, it's probably not going to show up in a search anyway if it's not there. But, people are less likely to click on it because it's not what they're looking for. So is there some sort of cross-reference, Scott, in terms of the meta description and the content of the blog article, for instance?
Well, so what some people do is they take the first sentence or two of their blog post. I don't usually like to do that, and the reason is the first sentence or two may not really tell you what the blog post is about or the web page is about. So I like to just give a really quick, short synopsis of what the blog post is about, and that may include call to action, like read more or learn more or something like that. But it may not. But it should just be a really short 1 or 2 sentence synopsis of what the blog post is about. In this way, when the person searches, they see it and they say, oh, that's exactly what I want to look at.
So thinking about those search results, Scott, what about keywords and domain names? So for instance, my company's called Far North. So my website's far-north.co.uk. What's your opinion on doing sort of Far North media, Far North sales, putting a keyword in the domain?
Yeah, that's awesome that you did that. And the reason is, and I've tested this twice now with keywords in the domain and in the top level domain. So there's 2 places where you could place the keyword. There's the domain and then there's the URL. So the blog post would be, / whatever you want it to be. And I've tested this twice. So I purchased the domain. And the first time I did it, I purchased the domain and I installed WordPress. And you put the title in for WordPress, and that's it. And I left it at that. I didn't put any additional content, no words, no images, nothing. And within a few days, it ranked number 1 on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. Now, that's great as long as you continue to work on it, because within a couple of weeks after that, it was completely off of all 3 search engines. And then I did it again with a computer repair company, and they wanted to rank for certain keywords. So we purchased the domain .com. Install WordPress. In this case, we built the website, and it took a little longer, but I think it was maybe 10 days, and it was number 15 on Google, number 1 on Yahoo and Bing, and it's since moved up to, I think it's number 13 this morning on Google for the keyword that they wanted. And so it works as long as you continue to go with that. So you'll get to the top pretty quickly for a branded domain name, which is huge. And then, long tail keywords, depending on what it is, you can also get to the top pretty quickly as well.
So when you take a WordPress website out, for instance, and I think the default, it just says my blog. So you've got the domain name, so your URL, so in my case, farnorth.co.uk, and then you've got my blog. So you change my blog to something that's relevant with keywords?
Correct.
Yeah?
Yep.
Right. Okay. Good stuff. Just getting some clarification on that one. Good man. Right, let's talk links. What's the difference between internal and sort of inbound links?
Well, internal links will just point to other pages on your website. So when you write a blog post, you might reference a web page or another blog post on your website. And that is good for SEO. It doesn't really weigh too heavy, but you should have a couple on a post. Inbound links are definitely more important, as long as they're high quality links. And you can there are different ways to do that. And so some of the ways are sharing your stuff over social media, because it's a link back to your website on high authority websites. Adding your information to directory listings, like the Yelps of the world, or Yahoo, even though Yahoo's run by Yext now, but sites like Yelp or YP, I don't know if they're a little different in UK, but things like that those are high authority links back to your website. Adding your information to Medium or in my case, I use inbound.org. So there's always industry standard websites where you can add a profile back to your website. And sometimes they're no follow links, so it doesn't really help you, but sometimes they follow, and that'll help with the authority of your website. Those are more important inbound links. Now, Penguin 4.0 came out, I think in October, and that up until this past October, a low quality link, something that looks spammy, could get your site penalized and removed from Google. And it took 2 years for them to fix this. So if the previous Penguin update was 2 years ago, if you were penalized then, you couldn't get back on with your website. A lot of people just built new websites.
Now, Scott, is that someone linking to your website on their kind of spammy website?
Correct. And
Right.
so that was part of the problem, is people were, I have competition down the road. I want to get them off of Google. So I just spam their website with junk links. So with the new update, what they did was the low quality links will no longer hurt your results. They just won't count. So you have that working for you now. It's a little bit easier to work with inbound links, but if you can get high quality backlinks, so there's adding your profile to industry standard sites, to sites like Medium or Blogger, doing a guest blog on another site is a great way to add links, as long as it's a high quality site. Getting backlinks to your site. So like I blog on Social Media Today, I blog on businesstocommunity.com, LinkedIn, Medium. So those are great ways to get backlinks to your site. There's the link exchange. I call you up and say, hey, can you add a link back to my website? And you may or may not have to pay for that, or, exchange something. That's another way. I'm not a fan of that, because I don't know. It just seems kind of cheesy to me. There's podcasting, because what happens when you podcast, when you get on somebody's podcast, they're probably going to put a backlink to your site in the show notes.
Sure.
So that's another way to do it.
Okay, I'll do that. Sold. So what about, you just mentioned there, Scott, about, getting backlinks. So if you were to ring me and say, Ian, okay, I want you to put a link onto, what is it, Scott, Gombar.com?
Yes.
Yeah. How would I do that? Would it just literally have to be in a post, or is there some way where you can hide that link? Or
I wouldn't hide it. Yeah, it should be in a post or a web page. The way they used to do it, because I've been building websites now for, I don't know, over 20 years. And what they used to do is they would have a page just all links back to, and some people still do it, with things that they're interested in, or resources, they call it, things like that. But yeah, it would probably be in a blog post, or you might say, hey, Scott, can you write a guest blog post on my website, or things like that.
So it's not going to be a load of towns and cities in black on a black background then?
No, those days are it's funny because people are still doing it, but it doesn't work, and it's going to end up getting you in trouble with Google.
Yeah, definitely. Well, just on them links, so I guess it's good karma to link the sites to like external links out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You should actually. It's kind of like when you when you were in school, you wrote a report or a thesis, you had to give credit to the source, right? So it's the same thing. You're giving citations back to the source. So if I wrote a blog post and I said, Ian said this, I want to link back to whatever that source is.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. If we're thinking about building websites and kind of we optimize on the go when we build websites here at Far North, what's your opinion on doing that in terms of sort of say alt text on images? Are those still relevant?
Yes, they are. Alt text and title tags. Alt text are a little more important, but both do count. Alt text and title tags, they should not necessarily be the same thing. They can. It doesn't hurt anything. But the title tag is, what is this image title? The alt text is what if the image for some reason doesn't load, or the person is using a text-only browser, that's what they're going to see. And speaking of text-only browsers, if you ever want to know what Google's going to see, use a text-only browser because that's what they're going to see. You
mentioned there about the title as well. So you say you don't have to have the same text on the alt text than you do on the title. So what would you have in the alt text, and what's that for?
The alt text is what the person looking at your website will see if for some reason the image doesn't load.
And the title?
The title is when you I think the title is when you hover over it. So the image does load, you hover over it.
And what about when you do a sort of Google search for images? What
there's that too. And so you have to be careful with that one. Because Google, when you search Google Images, you can search by images you can use without modification and so forth. So free to use, a lot of times it's Wikipedia images. If you don't mark your image correctly, then Google's going to say, well, anybody can use it. So you do have to be careful with that. But it's a good source. Somebody's looking for a podcast. You have an image title that says podcast, and it comes up, and they go to your site. Now you've gotten traffic because of it.
Scott, you mentioned about I think you mentioned Yahoo and Bing. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on the best search engine? I notice browsers now are starting to come with a preference. For instance, like Microsoft Edge is using Bing, I think.
Yes.
What would you say the best ones were to use?
Search engine is Google.
Yeah.
Google. Now, Bing is really trying hard to gain some of that traffic now, so they're doing some new things, but definitely Google is still the best.
Right. So, if you were going to optimize a site, have you got that search engine in mind? Because they do different things. Because you were talking there about Penguin and Panda and that sort of thing. Is the Google algorithms different to the others, and you have to optimize in a different way?
They're different, and Yahoo's going to go through some changes now because Verizon bought them, but they're different in how they do things. Ultimately, they're trying to accomplish the same thing. I think for the most part, there's some differences in different things you can do with them. I think as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do for Google, Yahoo and Bing will follow suit. Now, Bing does have their own webmaster tools. They call it webmaster tools. Google calls it Search Console now. So you should submit your website to that, your sitemap to that. You should also submit your business, if it's a brick and mortar business, to Bing Places. So you definitely want to do those things. Don't just forget about Bing, because it's somewhere between 15 and 20% of search traffic. And it may go up because of Cortana, and you never know what Microsoft is going to do next. So I think as long as you're doing the right thing for Google, you'll do fine for everything. But don't forget Bing Webmaster Tools and Bing Places and things like that.
Brilliant. I guess I'm thinking, putting myself in client shoes, and if they were going to hire an SEO consultant, I guess they're going to want to know, because you can spend hundreds, you can spend hundreds a month on this, dollars, pounds, whatever. Mm-hmm. What's some good questions to ask a prospective SEO consultant that you're going to bring in? Some might say they're going to definitely get you on page one, and they've got a special relationship with Google. How do you cut through some of the
I always tell people if the SEO they're talking to guarantees page one listings within a few days or something, run away, because there's no way to guarantee that. And if they somehow can do it, they're probably gaming the system, and that's going to end up hurting you in the long run.
And this is when we're talking about black hat and white hat.
Yes. Another thing that I like to tell people to ask, I wrote a blog post about this. There was something. Oh, how long did they buy their own domain? So, how long did I purchase Scott Gombar for? If they only purchased their domain for 1 year, then they're not a good SEO, because that's one of the tricks to SEO. Not really a trick, but one thing an SEO should know is you buy the domain for multiple years, because Google thinks if you buy the domain for 1 year, you're not really serious about your business. It might be a spammy site and so forth. If you buy it for multiple years, they take that a little more seriously, and they give it a little more authority.
That's a really good tip. So how would they find that out?
Oh, that's actually really easy. Go to who.is and just type in the domain name there, and it will tell you how long it was registered for and when it's set to expire.
Brilliant. Can Whois? I mean, I've used Whois. Can you see who actually owns the domain?
Yes, you can. However, sometimes it's not really who owns it. Sometimes it's a third party that purchased it for them.
Yeah,
that's another thing too. I like to tell people, if you're going to build a website, start your own business, or you already have a website, make sure you own it. That the domain account and the hosting account is in your name, because I've seen it so many times, and you've probably run into this too, where the business calls you up and says, my website is down, I can't get a hold of the website guy, and you do a quick Whois search, and you see that the website, the domain, and the hosting is all in the website guy's name, and they can't get a hold of him.
Yeah, I have seen that as well, and even trying to get a domain across sometimes can be difficult with certain codes, can't it?
That's right.
Yeah. So I think that's great, actually. I'm going to keep pushing on that one. So in terms of trying to clarify who's a good SEO consultant, obviously don't go with the one that can get you on page one. But we briefly touched upon sort of black hat, white hat. What methods would they use if they were to sort of say that? I guess there would just be short-term black hat methods, yeah?
So the people you don't want to go with, yeah. If they're going to get you on page one, like I said, I use buying the domain with the exact keyword phrase in it will get you there temporarily. In some cases, like it didn't work for the second one, but it worked for the first one. It just won't stay there because you haven't done the rest of the work. So yeah, black hat. Most of the time, the people that say they're going to get you on page one of Google, those are black hat, or they're just going to take your money and run. I've seen that happen too.
So what does a monthly SEO program look like, Scott?
For me, it really breaks down into two pieces. There's the on-page SEO, which I'm going to go through your website and make sure all the things we just talked about are taken care of. The title tags, the alt tags, the URL of the pages, the H1, H2. We didn't talk about those, but the H1 and H2, the H3, the bolds, the italics, the meta descriptions, all of that stuff is taken care of. And once that's done, so that's a one-time fee, and then we'll go back and check it later again. But once that's done, then there's the off-page SEO. This is a monthly retainer, and with that, I'm building up your backlinks. I may or may not be blogging depending on what you've chosen to have me do, but I'm going to at least encourage you to blog. There's monitoring the different things, and let me bring up the page so I could tell you exactly what I'm doing. The off-page SEO is a lot more difficult, and it's an ongoing thing. The on-page SEO is it's kind of a one-time thing, so you do it, and then you may have to go back and do it again. I'm actually working with someone that I did it for them 6 months ago, and we're going through and doing it again. I monitor keywords. We talk on a regular basis. We watch your Google Analytics and see what's working, what's not working. And that's another thing that some businesses don't understand, is that SEO is not foolproof. So sometimes you have to adjust your plan. So what might be working today may not work tomorrow. So there's that piece, and I'm always very honest with people and say, listen, this is what's going on. This is what we need to do. We need to change the plan in this way. So there's the on-page, the off-page SEO is the ongoing monthly retainer type stuff.
Yeah. And does social media?
Oh yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it. Twitter actually has a, I don't know if it's a partnership or what you want to call it, but tweets are getting indexed on Google. Twitter, Facebook, obviously Google Plus, and that's a big part of it too. By the way, Google My Business, making sure for, at least for brick and mortar, but any business really, because you can set up a service area or brand, making sure there's a Google My Business page set up, because that's going to show up in the Google 3-pack, which I think is going to become a 2-pack soon. And on the first page of Google, you really have 3 opportunities to show your business. There's AdWords, which I also do. I'm a partner with AdWords. There's the Google Map or the Google 3-pack, and then there's the organic results. So if you think about it, 3 opportunities. If you're showing up in all 3 spots, and then you also have your Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, and so forth, all of this is occupying the first page. Who do you think they're going to select when they search whatever it is you do?
It's really interesting, Scott. You mentioned Google Plus, and for me, I'm not a fan of Google Plus. I don't look around it, but man, do I post to it, because obviously Google love Google Plus and their own kind of initiatives. But some of my posts, if I post a blog, for instance, I'll post it everywhere, but I put it on Google Plus, and you can bet it's going to be up there in the rankings. Yeah.
I'm just like you. I'm not a fan of Google Plus as a social platform, but it is a necessary platform for just like you said, for blogging and for business. If you're not showing up on Google Maps, especially if you're a brick and mortar store, people are going to have a hard time finding you. And then make sure that information is accurate as well. Last Christmas, I still tell people this, it's been almost a year. I was looking to go, I always buy cannolis for the family. And I was looking this new place that opened up. Somebody told me about it. So I Googled it, and the hours said it didn't open until 9 p.m. instead of 9 a.m. So they had the hours wrong. Now, I knew better, but some people probably didn't know better, thought maybe they're going to be open overnight.
Yeah. But I think you touched upon a good point there, because the Google address has to match the website address, yeah?
Right.
Because that's linked.
Right. Well, they send you a postcard with a PIN number, and it used to take like 2 weeks, but I just did one for a new client, and they had, I think I did it on Thursday or Friday night, and they had it on Monday. So they've gotten a lot quicker with that.
How does Google feel about websites that are redesigned? So is it a good thing to redesign your website over a year, 2, 3, whatever?
You should make sure your website is up to date. And what I mean by that is, so the next big algorithm drop, I think, is going to be speed. If your website doesn't load quickly, especially on mobile, you're going to be in trouble. So that piece is important, and making sure your site is kind of modern looking, mobile friendly for sure. That's you have to be. They're actually going to be splitting, if they didn't do it already, they may have already done it, but splitting the indexing, so they're going to have separate index for mobile and one for desktop. But if you're going to rebuild your site, you have to be very, very careful, because you could end up hurting yourself really badly as far as traffic. And the reason for that is you probably have backlinks. If your site's been up for a few years, you probably have backlinks to your site. If you start changing around URL structures and so forth, or removing pages, you have to add 301 redirects in your, and it's getting a little technical now, but there's a file in your hosting package, depending on what type of hosting you're using. So most people use Linux. So there's an htaccess file. You have to add 301 redirects to that file for pages you've removed or you've changed the URL on. If you don't do that, you're going to lose a lot of your traffic and a lot of your authority, because now you have all of these backlinks out there that are pointing to things that don't exist anymore.
No, it's a good point. I've got a friend of mine who's got a great website. He's right up there in Google, and it's in Joomla, and he just wants to modernize it. He's asked me, can you guys do WordPress website? He's just so nervous about the switch over because he's right up there.
That's going to be tricky. So yeah, you got to make sure the 301 redirects are there. I stopped using Joomla probably 10 years ago, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. WordPress is just so much easier. The reason I stuck with WordPress is because once I'm done with it, I can show the client how to update pages and so forth. And most of the time, they're good with that. And they don't have to bother me anymore. Most of them don't want to keep bothering me. So it's easier than Joomla for sure.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it comes to lots of these plugins now. The plugins are always being updated, the themes are being updated.
Right.
And especially when it comes to security, you've got to keep them updated, yeah?
Yes.
Good stuff. Well, Scott, I think I've exhausted my list of questions for you. Is there anything else that I haven't asked that you might want to let our listeners know about?
No, if they ever do want to know more, I do have a webinar on page SEO, and so that's going through your website and making sure that everything is set up properly for Google, Yahoo, and Bing. And I offer that once a month. The next one starts on December 1st, and I do it on it's for 4 weeks, so 4 1-hour sessions, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. my time. So that would be a little late for your area. That would be 1 a.m. I think. But if they're up and they have nothing to do for an hour.
Scott, is that the one that you do live?
I do it live, yes.
Is that the SEO teardown?
No, that's a little different. That's a podcast. And I do that for like 15 minutes every Wednesday, although I'm not doing it tomorrow because we start the holiday weekend here tomorrow.
Thanksgiving, yeah?
Yeah, Thanksgiving, exactly. So Wednesdays, for us, it's a travel day, but it's also a big party day in the United States.
Excellent.
But that's a podcast that I do, and if a business wants to come on and have me review their website, I can do that. The webinar is live, but it's only for people that sign up. So the podcast is live; anybody can watch it live, and then it's uploaded to all the appropriate places afterwards. And then the webinar is on Thursday nights.
Excellent! You're a brave man. You're a brave man doing live.
Yeah, I like it. I've been doing it. So I have another podcast that I do. I've been doing for over a year now. And I have a co-host for that one. We've been doing that live for over a year, and it's fun. People expect there to be errors and mistakes and tongue twisters and things like that, and it makes you look a little more human, I think.
Definitely, totally agree. Agree. My listeners are used to that. Don't worry about that, Scott.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. Well, hey, Scott, thanks for your time. That's been brilliant, and I think our listeners can reach you at scottgombar.com.
Correct.
Brilliant stuff. Well, Scott, thanks for your time and have a great Thanksgiving.
You too. Oh, you too. Thanks.
That was Scott over in Connecticut. I hope you found that was useful. It's the time seemed to fly. I didn't even get to ask Scott where the best place to hide a dead body was, because we all know it's page 2 of Google, right? I know. Sorry. But SEO, you guys have been asking for it over email for quite a while now. So I hope there's some takeaways there for you. It might give you some clarity if you've got an SEO consultant or you're having your website built currently. It's something I'm interested in because I'm passionate about social, and that feeds into an SEO strategy. So let me know how you found that, if it was of use. And thanks to our sponsors this week, Cellular Solutions. Based in Sunderland, Cellular boasts a comprehensive range of integrated business communication solutions across mobile, landline, software, and email. So if your organization needs help purchasing a phone system, CRM assistance, or would like to discuss Sage software, in particular if you're in manufacturing, head over to cellular-solutions.co.uk. They've been experts in this field for over 20 years. If you'd like to sponsor a show, or if you'd like a shout out, or you'd like to tell us about an event you're planning, please let us know. That'd be great. So until next time, it's great to be back, by the way. I'm Ian Farrar, this is the Industry Angel, and thanks for listening.